Good evening. This is your host, Dan Stafford, with the Midwestern Geek in Cali podcast, podcasting from 42 Tardis Way in lovely Temecula, California, less than a mile from the cool, classic old subdivision of Starlight Ridge. And today I want to do an all audio podcast because I want to do a little bit of visualization. Lead in, it's Sunday. And I've got all my chores done for the day because, yeah, we have to take care of the home too. So let's talk about what has been on my mind most of the day. Now, I don't know about most of you out there, but when I get back on a bicycle, it kind of makes me feel like a kid again. And it's good exercise. But I don't get to do it very often because A, it's pretty hard to get on the road around here despite the bike lanes because the bike lanes aren't separated from regular traffic. I don't really trust all the drivers around here. And B, when I get where I'm going, there's nowhere to lock up my bike most of the time, so I can't really trust taking one of my old classic bikes out and using it for a daily commute, even though the distance I'm commuting daily right now would easily be doable on a bicycle. So it kind of bums me because I love riding bike and I love the exercise and I could really use the exercise because I spend a lot of time in front of a computer. I'm in IT school and I do IT-ish work, and I've spent many years working with computers and technology, and it's not prone to regular physical exercise. But looking at a bike kind of brings a little smile to my heart. Getting on a bike and riding it around really makes me feel like a kid again. I really enjoy it. So, I want to do a mental exercise. I want to envision a world where we kind of didn't do cars, we did bicycles instead. And let's just picture we did all the roads like we have them now. We have the sidewalks for people to walk on. But how would it be different if all that was on the roads and streets were bicycles? Everybody would be able to afford a bike because they'd be so mass produced and so inexpensive because of the mass production comparatively. Nobody would have to be paying for fuel, so there would be a lot less carbon emissions in the atmosphere than there are. All that's a plus, but look around you. Close your eyes and just imagine this. Imagine instead of cars and trucks and motorcycles on the road, you see everybody on a bicycle. Okay, maybe an e-bike with a battery and an electric motor to help with the hills and, going upwind and such. And in the western states, they have invented bicycle air conditioners so that you don't cook when you ride a bike. And everywhere you look, the roads have like a clear plastic cover above with open sides so that when you're riding, you're not in the weather. And everybody rides everywhere. And everywhere you go, there are bike racks. And since everybody pretty much has a bike, and there are bike shares for those who come to town and don't, then every little shop has an air pump. Every little shop has a bike rack, Every little shop would have like at least spare inner tubes and minor parts and some tools and such like that. And there would be community bike shops. And there would be like massive custom bike shows and displays like now we have cruise night with classic cars. Well, we'd have cruise nights with classic bicycles and custom bicycles, and people would be able to race their bicycles because who's going to really go crazy 150 miles an hour on a bicycle? Not too many people. So we'd be able to take some of the main thoroughfares and they would be for bicycle races, and everyone got around on a bike. And if you think about it, everyone would have to allow a little bit more time for people to get around. The pace of life would necessarily be a little bit slower. We'd be a little bit not quite so chained to the clock. It'd be a little looser. I mean, obviously you have commitments and such, but people understand that you need a little time to ride your bike. So, yeah, they give you an extra 10 or 15 or 20 minutes to be able to go across town. And people would live closer to where they work, because cars wouldn't make it so you could go 50 miles one way. And perhaps we'd have more trains and trains that were able to carry our bicycles. Say you were able to get on a train and you'd have your seat, and right next to you would be a rack where you could stand your bike up and clamp it in place, and it would ride along with you. And when you got to the other end, so you're going to another town, you hop on a bike train and you grab your seat and you spend half an hour or whatever on the bike train with your bike alongside you. And when you get to the other end, everybody grabs their bike one at a time, on each side of the car and starts hopping out and riding off to do whatever they're going to do in town. And then the bike train loads up another bunch of people with their bicycles and goes on to the next stop. And maybe with the covers over the road so that you don't have to be in the rain and the weather, there might even be a second level up there with little shops and stuff like that that would be like in the neighborhoods. And you'd, you know, take your bike and ride up a little elevator every so often, and on the second level you could ride up there too. Especially in nice weather, and there might be like little shops up there. And along the sides of the road, people would have like flowers planted and, um, just make it nice and well decorated and maybe a little closer to nature. And you'd be able to ride along on your way to work and from work and kind of see things as you rode along. And I mean, you'd get a sense of what's going on in all the neighborhoods. You'd, when you ride a bike, you can notice things a lot easier, and it's just more in touch with what's going on in the world around you when you're on a bicycle. And if everybody was riding bicycles everywhere, it would be just, you'd be able to stop and have a brief conversation with people at the street corner waiting their turn to cross at major intersections. Yeah, you'd be able to ride anywhere without having to worry about getting flattened. You wouldn't have to worry about gasoline. You'd have to worry about electricity if you had an e-bike, but maybe if you had a few solar panels on the house to charge the e-bike up. And then if you're going out of town, well, you hop a train, and on the other end, there's bicycle leases, rentals. Rent a bike anywhere you go. And so everywhere you go, you'd be able to ride your bike and pedal. And imagine how in shape people would be, because everybody would get regular exercise every day. Everywhere they went, they would be exercising a little bit. There wouldn't be any struggle to fit it in, it'd be built into your day. So just do a mental exercise and picture a world where everything was done with bicycles. And what would you have to do to make that possible? To make people able to get around like they are now with cars, only with bicycles? Would there be bicycle buses that carried bikes and people? Would there be bicycle trains that carried bikes and people? Would there be, I don't know, maybe something like the Hyperloop? Would we have invented, like a lot more custom trailers for bikes to haul little bits of cargo and groceries and such? Would we have invented, again, I want to mention air conditioning for bicycles in the Midwest? Would we be able to, and the East where it gets snow, the northern parts of the country, would we have, you know, covered over bike roads so the snow wouldn't really be on the road, and you'd be able to maybe close the sides of the road up and have a little bit of a solar heating effect in there so that nobody would have to freeze when riding their bike. And when you're riding, you're warmer anyway because you're exercising all the way there. So you'd be able to ride your bike in the winter and still be pretty comfortable, even in, like northern Wisconsin or, northern Michigan or Minnesota or the Dakotas, places like that, around Chicago. Would the big cities have underground bicycle tunnels? Maybe. Um, places where people could ride underground and they wouldn't have to worry about, like now they have subways, instead they would have underground bikeways. Maybe the subway system in New York would be like that. It would be a bicycle route instead of a train route, maybe. I mean, what kind of bikes would we have? Would we have tricycles for older folks? Would we have bicycle cars and bicycle taxis and bicycle delivery vehicles? I mean, what kind of world would it look like in your mind? What do you see if you see a world that's nothing but bicycles and people walking and maybe skateboards, maybe even roller skaters? Yeah, and everybody got around mostly under their own power, but with wheels. And okay, now come back to the real world and head off to the gas station and fill up that gas tank because that's where we live. But do we have to? Is it necessary? And could we maybe do it different? I gotta wonder. I wonder if maybe there could be a town somewhere that was started and built just for people who love to ride bikes. Maybe somewhere where the weather was nice, but it was all bicycles all the time. And you had to park your cars at the edge of town and leave them there while you were in town and just ride your bike. Not a big town, a small town. And you'd have e-bikes and you'd have charging stations for e-bikes or battery swaps so that you could ride your e-bike with a battery powered assist from a little electric motor so that hills would be nothing. You know, if it was a little windy, it would be nothing. And everyone would be able to ride around and do what they need to do, but actually be a little more present in the space they're going through as they move around. Actually be a little more in the world and a little more in happiness and joy as they were riding because that's what most of us feel. when we ride a bike. So, on that note, I'm going to leave you with that mental image, call it a evening, and happy Sunday, what's left of it, and happy Vulcan fingers to you from the agent of 42. Thank you for listening. Stop by, visit us at www.Midwestern Geek in Cali. Check us out on Twitter at MidwestGeek Cali. Check us out on Facebook. We're there. Join our Facebook discussion group and have a wonderful life. Visuals created with Plane 9 Visualizer. www.plane9.com. That's PLANE, the number 9.com. And thank you, Plane 9, because this is a wonderful tool.